Alas.
Dobar den skupi prijatelji. I am very glad to participate in this timely initiative of Pan-Europa, Bulgaria, and I would like to salute my good friend Gergana and also Solomon out of my home office here in Luxembourg, with the hope that we can meet again in a less virtual setting in the very next future. The signing of the EU accession treaty by Bulgaria, together with Romania, is one of the fondest memories of my career. It was a highlight, I would say the highlight, of the Luxembourgish presidency back in 2005, when the accession treaty was signed on April 25th at the Neumünster Conference Center at around the same time that you hear me speaking now. I can still vividly recall the voices of Bulgaria signing the European anthem from the windows of the old abbey. These were optimistic times, and I continue to believe in the powerful European message of hope, of solidarity that was expressed back then. However, the general evolution of the EU has been beset by unforeseen hindrances that we would never have envisaged in 2005. We are today confronted with two diverging movements. On the one hand, the European Union is continuing its classic path in further growing together and sharing power. And in this context, I am looking forward to Bulgaria joining in a not too distant future the Schengen area and also, why not, the Eurozone. The recent decisions to open accession talks with North Macedonia and also Albania also supports the idea of a growing EU family on the path towards an ever closer union. Yet, it is impossible to deny that the EU has had to face numerous challenges over the past 15 years, where its member states have not always found satisfying ways to come and to go together. There was the financial crisis after 2008, followed by the debt crisis, armed conflicts erupting in our eastern and also southern neighborhoods, major acts of terrorism in our European heartland, an inconclusive and frustrating migration debate since 2015, and not to forget the departure of a member state only a few months ago. But today, some of these problems seem almost dwarfed by the enormous challenge posed by the spread of COVID-19. Europe will be forged in crisis, said Jean Monnet, one of the founding fathers of the European Union, and will be the sum of the solutions adopted for those crises. The current situation caused by COVID-19 is unprecedented. It challenges the very foundation of our societies, our freedoms, our openness, and the pillars of our common European project that we have built over the last decades. Many borders inside the EU have been closed. Also, there is no scientific evidence to support such actions. The virus spreads from one human being to another, not from one country to another. In many border regions, communities whose livelihoods depend on the four freedoms which we have come to cherish are being torn apart. This risks creating lasting and possibly irreparable damage to the very concept of the European citizenship, to the essence of the European way of life, and to the idea of a communauté de destin that we have invoked so often in our speeches written for better times. In addition, the return of physical borders is putting huge strain on the single market, which so many EU countries rely on to keep their economies going. We absolutely need to restore the Schengen area and a functioning single market as quickly as possible. A return to protectionism and my country first politics will be a disease for which there is not going to be any vaccine anytime soon. Another very worrying tendency that has increased during the current health crisis is the onslaught by governments inside the European Union to curb the constitutional democratic order. The sanitary crisis has been instrumentalized to justify measures which are putting our democratic values, rule of law, and the freedom of expression to risk. Each and every member state has a responsibility to ensure that these fundamental values are respected, especially in these difficult times. And we count on the Commission to make sure that the treaties are respected on the letter. At the same time, in all fairness, I would like to point out that in this crisis we have been largely successful in bringing home thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of European citizens and their families from all across the globe. Only through joint action of the Member States over the past weeks, this has been possible. There have been many examples of solidarity, such as the transfer of patients from France and Italy to hospitals in other countries, including my own. Member States have helped each other with providing protection material and other medical resources. The pandemic is far from over, yet we now need to progressively plan the road to economic recovery. As said, the number one priority is to completely restore the Schengen area and the four freedoms of the single market. The EU cannot simply be a fair weather project which is put aside in times of crisis. Our first priority was to put the instruments in place for short-term support. Three safety needs will allow us to support workers, to help business, and to mitigate effects on Member States. These measures are complemented by the European Central Bank for the banking sector. We are now looking at instruments to mitigate the effects of the crisis in a mid and also a long-term perspective. Discussions are taking place on a recovery fund, which should be set up before the summer and ensure further solidarity with the most affected member states. Also, it has become clear that the all-important EU budget, the multi-annual financial framework, the MFF, will have to be increased to address the needs of the Union by recover from the crisis. However, we should not lose sight of our overarching ambitions set out in the strategic agenda reached in 2019. The green transition and the digital transformation will play a central and priority role in relaunching and modernizing our economy. There are no contradictions between green and digital transition objectives and recovering from the unprecedented crisis by making the EU more resilient. There are also lessons to be learned from the crisis in terms of technological dependence or the production of medical goods. This virus has ruthlessly exposed certain weaknesses to us, and we should now correct them as soon as possible. Dear friends, I still have very positive memories of my latest visit to Sofia, the 7th of November last year, and I remain convinced that the relations of friendship and cooperation between Bulgaria and Luxembourg will continue to deepen. Also in the economic field, in the interest of both our respective countries. There is a clear willingness to act together as Europeans in the face of current challenges, and we have to build on that. Dear friends, history shows us that the EU has always come out of crisis stronger. It should be no different this time around. Today, Bulgaria is an invaluable part of our common European family. Solidarity and common values have brought Europe a long way. As always, l'union fait la force, and Europe is what we make of it. I very much regret that it was not possible to be among you today, at least virtually, but I wish you a very fruitful and constructive exchange, and my best wishes here from Luxembourg.